Hello and welcome to the Cook Memorial Public Library podcast, where we invite you to spend just a few minutes with the staff at Cook Library. I'm Daniel Smith, the Genealogy Librarian. I have also been coordinating the Seed Library, which I encourage you to check out very soon. We have flower, fruit, herb, native, and vegetable seeds available. We will be open until the end of March, as long as supplies last. Previously, we explored the connections between seeds and genealogy, and we are continuing with that theme in this episode, where we are exploring the connections between seeds and our immigrant ancestors. When folks traveled to the United States, they brought some personal possessions with them, and sometimes this included precious seeds that their family had grown for generations. These seeds were often an essential ingredient in a treasured family recipe, and without these seeds, that dish would never taste like it did back in the old country. These seeds also served as a connection to their previous life and values. As you will hear in this episode, immigrants from across the globe and from various cultural traditions and ethnic backgrounds brought seeds with them to the United States. In fact, some were very crafty in the ways that they brought these seeds with them. Let's learn more about them through a couple of examples. Recognizing the risk of bringing seeds with them, Italian immigrants chose to sew seeds into their clothing so that they could not be easily found and confiscated. There have also been stories of immigrants creating secret compartments in their suitcases to store seeds. One of the seeds that Italian immigrants hid in their clothing were Catalonia beans. Once they settled in the United States, they began growing these beans. Due to a series of misfortunate events in Italy, the Catalonia beans were lost in some villages. Amazingly, Italian-American immigrants still had the seeds and were able to share them with their Italian relatives. If they had not brought these seeds with them, Catalonia beans may have disappeared forever. Sometimes descendants of immigrants seek to reconnect with their ancestors by identifying and growing the seeds that their ancestors once grew. One example is Charlotte, a Lebanese American who intentionally sought out seeds from her heritage, specifically Syrian peas and Lebanese squash. She had fond memories of her grandparents' large garden, and she chose to grow squash and peas as a way of preserving her culture and connecting with her past. In this way, she was able to taste and see her ancestry through her garden and remember her grandparents in the process. To learn more about her efforts, check out the Arab American National Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. These are just a couple of stories about immigrants and their seeds. We also know that Norwegians brought barley seeds with them when they immigrated to the Midwest. Enslaved Africans brought okra seeds by braiding them into their hair, and Chinese immigrants carried bok choy seeds when they came to the West Coast through Angel Island. Over the years, many different types of seeds have migrated with those who have treasured them. Clearly, seeds were so valuable to our immigrant ancestors. We often hear stories about immigrants arriving in this country with little to no money or possessions. Many times, this was the case. Did you know that some ship manifests and passenger arrival records included financial information as well as many other details? Some of these documents are more comprehensive than others. If your ancestor immigrated in the 20th century, you may be in luck. However, older records are not as detailed. Still, I encourage you to explore ship manifests and passenger arrival records for possible clues. You can find these through the National Archives and on Ancestry, which is accessible at the library. If you do not know your ancestors' immigration year or the ship that they traveled on, you may be able to find the year in the 1900, 1910, 1920, or 1930 censuses. U.S. Census records are available on Family Search. In addition to census records, naturalization records may contain the immigration year, as well as information about their countries of origin and the ships they traveled on. Many of these records are also available online through Ancestry and Family Search. Almost all of us have immigrant ancestors, with some being more recent than others. While we may not have heirloom seeds that have been passed down through the generations, we likely have family recipes that have been saved and shared, perhaps even savored. These probably rely upon key ingredients such as specific vegetables or herbs. Depending upon the age of the original recipe, your family likely grew some or all of the ingredients in the recipes. If you are interested in heirloom seeds, you may want to consider purchasing some from a seed vendor like the Seed Savers Exchange, and then growing and sharing them with your family and friends. We may also have some available in our seed library still as well. Like the immigrants we mentioned earlier in this episode, you can pass down these seeds for future generations to grow and enjoy. Like Charlotte, you could also choose to grow heirloom seeds that connect to your cultural and ancestral background. In that way, you are creating a sort of heritage garden that memorializes your ancestors. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it with those who you think would also be interested. One of the best things you can do to support us is to take a moment to comment or leave a rating for this podcast. Those comments and ratings help get this podcast noticed. We'll be back soon, but until then, keep reading, keep watching, and keep listening.